he says, if you leave here today, you may never have a chance to ask for forgiveness again, and you could possibly go to hell. But what he didn't realize is I had just gotten to my squadron, HS5. They make you fill out a top 10 goal sheet in your squadron. My number one goal was get out of the military alive. Helicopter crashes are a real deal, and you die. That was my number one. I just want to get out of this thing alive. I can't believe I signed up to be a rescue swimmer. This is crazy. It's fun and exciting, but I'm also a level-headed kind of guy. I mean, I'm the life of the party, but I also have a few brains, I think. Other people would tell you different.
Welcome to the free sermon podcast of the Potter's House Church in Virginia Beach, affiliated with Christian Fellowship Ministries. Our vision is winning souls, making disciples, and planting churches. It's Tuesday, where you're going to hear a powerful testimony of God's grace revealed in human lives. Each Tuesday, you'll hear Pastor Adam interviewing pastors from around the world to share the mighty miracles that God has done in their lives to give you hope for yours. We share the stories of the men behind the messages you hear every other day on this podcast. Keep in mind that the free version only includes a portion of the whole testimony interview. To listen to the full version, use the links in the show notes to subscribe via Apple Podcasts or supercast.tech. Every dollar goes to supporting world evangelism. Enjoy today's Testimony Tuesday.
Okay, we are back. It's me, Pastor Adam. I'm glad that you are here with us, and it's you listening to us out there in podcast land. We're so glad to have you join us once again on the VBPH Sermon Podcast, and we're back with Testimony Tuesday. Once again, we're getting some great feedback from our exclusive chat room on WhatsApp. We want to thank you, all of you who are subscribed to us there, and even just today, as we're recording this, we had a few guys on there talking about how they really love these Testimony Tuesdays, and I must say it's also my favorite part of the week is to be able to interview some pastors from around our church, and it's really a great blessing for me. Hope it is for you as well. And so today we are wonderfully privileged and very grateful to have with us Pastor Kevin Baker, all the way from Stark, Florida. Welcome to the podcast, sir.
Thank you, Pastor Dragoon. Hey, it's a great privilege to be here, to be invited to come onto your podcast and just let my testimony. I hope my testimony will touch somebody out there. And we're from the Midwest who got called to the poor state of Florida, and where it's always sunshiny down here. And so, anyway, we're just love Jesus, and we're blessed to be in Florida.
Amen. Well, that seems like the place to be these days, huh?
Yeah. We're hoping that Ron DeSantis runs for president, but we'd hate to lose him as our governor. That's the problem.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, you don't know who you're going to get after that. It can only go downhill, right?
That's right. They're going to lift all the mandates now that the midterm elections are here. So, hey, who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, but without, I almost did it. Almost got diverted into politics.
That's right. Yeah.
But I'm gonna refrain because we want to use this time to dive in and hear about you and where you came from. We know that you're pastoring in Stark, Florida for how long now?
I've been 21 years.
Wow, 21 years. And great work of God there. You've got some churches out. You've got disciples. And so how did you get to this amazing place? What is your origin story? Where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in Oklahoma, a little bit of Oklahoma, a little bit of Kansas. I was an orphan of the state of Oklahoma until I was 13 years old.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So I'm already curious. How did that happen?
Well, my mother was not it's kind of funny how it all worked out. I mean, it's not, but it is. I did get to meet my birth father and my birth mother later in life. I met them about 7 years ago, and they passed away actually maybe 5 years ago. So I got to ask all the questions, in life. I'm 50 years old, or I'm 49. My wife, she's 50. I like to put that out there, for 4 months.
Not that anybody's counting, right?
No, but I am. And so anyway, I got to ask her all the questions, as a kid, but they were into drugs. I was born in 1972, 69, the revolution. That's when our fellowship started, the Jesus People movement. And the young people back then were into drugs. And my birth mother said, I hate to admit this, but drugs were more important to me at the time. And when I lived in Kansas, they took you to Oklahoma to your relatives there. And I just didn't have the drive to fight to get you guys back. And so we stayed in the system there until we were 13. We lived, my wife and I counted it up. I lived in probably 30 different homes by the time I was 13. So, that understanding your past will help you tackle the future.
Okay.
So, I can, when somebody is dealing with the spirit of rejection, because of my past, of course I deal with rejection. I can internalize and not let people get close because of my past.
Mm-hmm.
I would move into one home, and then 6 months later, or even 3 months later, they would come and move me to another home, and so that has a toll on a little kid.
No kidding. Yeah.
So when I got adopted at 13, my father was actually a minister. And when we lived in Enid, Oklahoma, we would go to their church. And he started out probably when I was 6 or 7 as the children's church leader. And so, but there were 5 siblings, and they were a young couple and couldn't adopt 5 kids. So at 13, when the state of Oklahoma decided to split us all up, they came in and asked if I wanted to become a baker. I used to be Kevin Johnson, and when I was 13, I became Kevin Baker. So life took a drastic turn for me.
Wow.
My birth family, all of the cousins in my birth family have been to prison, every one of them.
Sure.
But me and my sibling. And so it's kind of funny. There were 5 of us siblings, and all of us never went to prison. We've raised our kids. We've, because of our background and not having hope as a kid, we wanted our kids to have hope. I mean, it's really crazy. And we were all, I didn't meet my birth brother, my birth sisters till I was 40 years old, about 41 years old. So that's about 9 years ago, 8 years ago. So.
Wow.
But then we all met each other and found out where each other was. And so we were estranged for about 25, 30 years, like that.
Wow. That's crazy. So what was it like for you to adjust from like bouncing around like a pinball into this minister's home?
Thank God they loved Jesus at the time, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at 16 I moved out. I was rebellious, and they and I've called them, and you have these moments, where God speaks to you, and I've said, thank you so much, because without them depositing what they put into me at that age, the church they went to was just kind of like our fellowship church. It was called the Globe Ministries, and we would go, street preaching, and we would go walking up and down the drag strip and witnessing, handing out tracts, and inviting people to church, so that helped put something into me where, and as from 13 to probably 16 and a half, I truly think I was saved. I look back on it, and I was truly, I had an experience, but then hanging out with the wrong crowd, listening to the wrong frequencies of life, and that kind of thing led me to the where I knew that my dad was anti-stuff, I guess, my kids know, and now, so anyway. My kids know I don't like long hair, so they grow their hair out when they turn 18.
Oh,
right?
yeah, okay. So,
they do. You know what I'm saying?
Do what Dad doesn't like, right?
Yeah, Dad's been governing me a lot in my life, so I knew my dad didn't like an earring. So when I turned 16, I went right out and got an earring and got home, and Dad said, "You go where the earring goes, and it's not negotiable." Wow. And so and he was trying to probably call my bluff, because I'm a 16-year-old kid. Where am I going to go?
Right.
And so I said, okay, I'll go. I owned a Volkswagen Bug. That was mine. I had a paper route and I bought it with my own money. And so I thought, well, I'll just leave, and so it wasn't hard it was, but it wasn't hard for me because I'd pretty much been independent my whole life.
Yeah.
I know that sounds crazy, but we were just tossed around, and our upbringing was not good. It was not good at all. We were left to ourselves a lot.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't that big of a deal to move into my Volkswagen. I finished high school. I was at college. In high school, I sang. I joined the choir, was in the show choir, played football. So I was torn between my family. When I got adopted as a baker, they are predominantly sports people.
Okay.
So my dad played semi-pro soccer. My little brother played soccer. My little sister was a cheerleader. And so, of course, when you get adopted and everybody is into sports, you play sport. So
yeah.
I joined the football team, played defense, and but I really liked to sing. It was kind of an escape for me. I probably wasn't any good at it, but it was an escape for me. And so out of high school, I got a college scholarship to sing.
Wow.
And I went to college, full ride scholarship.
Well, that's not even half bad, living out of a Volkswagen.
That's right. Yeah, Volkswagen Bug. And now my senior year, so I moved in, I stayed with friends, my junior year, and finished my junior year. I worked as a farmhand in between that summer. And then my senior year started, bounced around from friend to friend, and then long story short, my now mother-in-law saw me sleeping in town in the Volkswagen, and she said, "You're not going to be living in a Volkswagen. You come to my house and sleep in the spare room." And so I actually moved in with my mother-in-law and Fawn, and lived with them to finish my senior year out, and then we went to college. Fawn was a cheerleader at the college we went to. We went to Northern Oklahoma College, and she got a scholarship for that, and I got a scholarship to sing. And so while we were in college, I got an associate's degree in communication. I wanted to be a disc jockey. That was my goal in life.
Okay.
So,
that's interesting.
Fawn was in nursing school. And so long story short, probably $1 million call.
Yeah. Oh, it's mi esposa. Yeah, let me pause this. Let me pause this for a second. And we're back.
So I moved in with them. We finished high school, went to college, had a full ride college scholarship. And so I had my books, board, and tuition. I lived right there on the college. I got my associate's degree, and Fawn was in nursing. She was in college for interior design, but we had to grow up quick. So she went to nursing school. She went to a 13-month nursing school program.
Okay.
And I went straight to work. I worked with her family in the oil field.
Wow.
And so the oil field, they paid you really good money. You worked really hard, and life was really bad. And so we bought our first house at 19 years old.
Wait. So did you were you married at this point?
Not yet.
Okay, not yet, but working on it.
We're working on it. So of course I'm just a sinner. I'm backslidden at this point. At
right.
16 and a half when I moved out of my dad's house, that was it for me. And I'll be honest with you, they raised me knowing that grace is not a license to sin.
Right.
That there is no greasy grace. You're either right or you're wrong. There's no in between.
Right.
And so I knew that. So when I backslid, I was like, well, I'm going to hell anyway.
Yeah.
There's no sense in playing the game. So that's what I did. And I partied and smoked dope and did crystal meth and weighed about 135 pounds and worked every day in the oil field. Fawn graduated from nursing school. She became a critical care nurse. We bought our first house. I guess I was almost 19.
Okay.
I graduated, degree, went
And
to
then,
work, worked about 6 months maybe. She graduated from the nursing school, and it was an associate's degree. It wasn't anything, write home about 30 hours, I think, something. And
well,
it was
so
about,
obviously there was some interest between the two of you.
yeah, so we lived together as a married couple. Um, just like a married couple. She went to work, and I went to work, and we came home. We made lots of money.
Yeah.
She was not that much of a partier. I was the partier. I was the life of the party. Um, my friends always came over. She always just tried to, keep things going, and I loved her, and she loved me. I'll tell you so it came to the point where I thought to myself, I'm going to ask her to marry me. So we were 21 years old. We lived together 3 years in that house. So it's about 20 and a half, maybe. Anyway, I'm not good with time because just time runs together for me. But so my mother went to Zales jewelry store with me. And because I didn't even know how to write a check, I
Probably at the mall, right?
it was at the mall.
Of
Yeah.
course, yeah.
Yeah. And so
Because
we
it was
went
the
down to
early
the mall.
90s, I think.
Yep. Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's about 92, I think, 92. And so 93, something like that. And so mom helped me write the check. I picked the ring out. Mom helped me write the check. It was my money, but, my checkbook, but she helped write the check, or our checkbook. So I went to, and this, I just tell these stories. I don't mind, so we went to a restaurant and sat down, and all the ladies that listen to your podcast are going to judge me right here, but I really,
Thankfully, it's not that many.
yeah, God will, the men are just going to shake their head and be like, oh my God, bro. So we sat down at the table, and I looked at her, and she always wore a panda. She had a panda gold coin ring on her ring finger. It's just what she always wore. And so I sat down. I'm not very romantic at all, not that guy. I tell my kids I've kissed her 9 times. You see what happens when I kiss her. We have 9 children. So anyway, we sit down at the restaurant, and I tell her, hey, don't you think this ring would look better? So I break out the little ring, and she says, are you asking me to marry you? And I said, kind of, I guess, yeah. But her grandmother, we'd go to her grandmother's house, and her grandma would say, he ain't never going to buy the cow if you're giving him the milk for free, Fawn. You know that. And they just, they were old school, and they didn't really care for us living together. And it was just kind of a weird situation. Of course, my family, the Bakers, they weren't into it at all, but Fawn would talk to them, and I was kind of more ashamed, I guess, maybe because of our living arrangements, knowing that mom and dad didn't condone those arrangements and didn't condone that lifestyle. So I just stayed away because I had a little brother and sister. And so on purpose, I stayed away. I never didn't go to Christmases, and I didn't go to Thanksgivings, and I did that on purpose because I knew that sin was contagious, and I didn't I wanted my brother and sister really to make it. If I was going to be too dumb to make it, maybe they could make it, because I knew, I did learn that in 3 years that I was going to church. It was a really good church that had standards and morals, and I knew it. And so, but I was just ashamed. And I mean, I talked to my mom, like she helped me go get the wedding ring. She was real excited about that. But as far as, they never would come over to our house, and never would, they drew that line, and I knew that line was there. And so anyway, I told Fawn sitting at the table, I said, I'd like for you to marry me, but if you ever leave me, I'm going to kill you graveyard dead. And whoever you leave me for, I'm going to kill them too.
Ooh.
Because I get married one time, and that's it.
Yeah, that's serious.
I'll live with you for the next 30 years. But if we get married, everyone has left me my whole life.
Right.
If we get married, and you leave me, I'm going to kill you. And I was serious. I mean, I probably wouldn't have, but in my 20-year-old brain, I was trying to, I was trying to
That was your
tell
way of
her,
expressing yourself.
right. Yeah. Because we
sharing
didn't
your
talk
feelings.
we didn't talk about my feelings. We didn't talk about,
Yeah.
we would be at the mall and there would be an aunt come up because my birth family lived in Enid, Oklahoma, and my adoptive family lived in Enid, Oklahoma.
Okay, right.
So I might have an aunt come up and say, hey, Kevin, how are you doing? I haven't seen you in 10 years. And we would walk away and Fawn would go, is that a birth aunt or is that so, we just never talked about it. It was just something we never talked about. Feelings, we never talked about feelings. We just didn't live by our emotions. We lived because, hey, I like you, you like me, you're working, I'm working, we're making money. Let's buy a house. We bought a house, yada, yada. We never did live by our emotions because if I would have, I probably would have been a basket case.
Right.
So I wake up one morning, we were married about a year. Lauren came into the picture, my daughter, after about a year. We didn't get married because we had kids or anything. We were very careful, we as live-ins or whatever, we counted the calendar and we were very careful about not having a child out. I don't know. It's just really weird.
Okay.
We were just.
Somebody was smart about it.
Yeah, we were. It's not. After we got married, we had bought our house, and Lauren came in the picture. My daughter, she's the oldest, and I just woke up one morning and had an epiphany. My mother was the juvenile officer of our hometown, which was like the sheriff. She's like the juvenile sheriff for real. She has a badge.
Wow.
She runs the juvenile department, and so when you call the police as a juvenile, she gets called, or her people, and so I was talking to my wife, I was talking to Fawn, and I said, if mom ever comes over here, she's going to have me arrested because I got dope, and that's just the way mom was. She just, it's like dad said, you go where the earring goes, and that's the way it was, and they just no nonsense. They raised us no nonsense, for 3 years. Your yes is yes and your no is no, and you live right and you're not right. There's consequences.
Right.
So, so anyway, Lauren's born. We bought our first house. I wake up one morning and I said, Fawn, I am way smarter than where I'm at in life.
Okay. So where do you think that came from?
The Holy Ghost?
Yeah.
I mean, looking back on it, it had to be because I was smoking dope regularly. I was doing crystal meth. My friends were doing crystal meth and they were shooting it up. But I am definitely scared of needles. And so I was snorting it like cocaine. And I was to the point where I was putting cotton balls up my nose and Vaseline, and because my nose would bleed a lot. And I weighed 135 pounds. And, we were working I was working every day. She was. But life was just a drag, man. I don't know how to describe it. It was just, we had 2 cars in the garage. We had a home that we had bought, and we were young, made lots of money, and just, I don't know, life was a drag. I didn't have no hope. So so her brother was a recruiter in the Navy in Oklahoma City. He was on recruiter duty.
Here comes the military.
Right. So her brother was a recruiter in the Navy, and I hated the military because I was on drugs.
Oh, wow.
But I sat up on the edge of my bed, and I'm trying to find a way out of here. In my brain, I'm trying to rationalize, okay, how can I do this without hurting my mom and dad? How can I go to drug rehab without hurting my mom and dad? Because in Enid, Oklahoma, the Baker name is she's the juvenile officer. Everybody knows you.
Right.
They adopted me when I was 13. They did something and took me in when nobody else would.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
All of this is playing out in my head, and I don't want to hurt them.
Right.
So if I join the Navy, I can go away for 2 years to a drug cessation program. Nobody will ever know the wiser, and I'll come back. That was our plan.
Okay.
So I go to the recruiter station with her brother, and I just told them, I said, hey, I want to do something exciting and fun. My exact words were, I don't want to work around dumb people. because he's trying to tell me how jobs work in the Navy. And I said, I'm probably not going to do good around dumb people. So get me a job where I'm not around dumb people. So so they take me to take the ASVAB. I took the ASVAB, and then we go to the MEP Center in Oklahoma City. They offer me rescue swimmer school. Can you swim? Yep. And so they offer me rescue swimmer school. I'll get a advancement upon completion of rescue swimmer school. Make more money, and I got to take care of my family. So I'll do it.
Nice.
So I got back to the recruiter station, and the other recruiter in the office said, "You did what? Don't you know there's California kids and East Coast beach bum kids, then they can't make it through rescue swimmer school? You're from Oklahoma. What makes you think you're going to be able to make it in rescue swimmer school?"
Right.
So I can swim.
Yeah.
No, you don't understand. It's rescue swimmer school. There's California beach kids who spend their entire life on the beach, and they don't make it through. And I said, well, I don't know. I'm going to make it through. And so I shipped off the day the Oklahoma City bomb blew up in Oklahoma City. I enlisted in the military.
Oh, wow.
Or that's the day I took off to go to Timothy McVeigh blew up the Murrah building in Oklahoma City. All the ceiling tiles fell out of the MEP Center where we were at. Fawn was in the parking lot.
Wow.
They rushed her inside, locked the place down. And that was also my birthday. And that was my 22nd birthday. And I shipped off to Great Lakes, Illinois. And that's the day I went into the military.
That is wild that all of that happens on the same day.
All of that happened on the same day.
Thanks again for listening to the free version of the VBPH Sermon Podcast, where we post sermons on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. We also have a premium version of this podcast, which posts sermons and interviews every single day of the week. So why would you want to subscribe? I'm glad you asked. I have 5 reasons for you. Number 1, on the premium version, we post full versions of Testimony Tuesday, Pastor Campbell Thursday, and Study Day Saturday. If you'd like to hear those episodes, then subscribe now. Reason number 2, uninterrupted listening. We remove all ads and all extraneous content from our premium feed. Reason number 3, premium episodes always release 6 hours earlier than the free version. If you're an early bird, it's a great reason to subscribe. Number 4, our subscribers will gain access to our sermon chat group on WhatsApp, where we interact directly with listeners around the globe. If you'd like to chat with other premium subscribers, subscribe today. And finally, every dollar we raise goes to world evangelism. This is the best reason to subscribe, because you are helping us launch churches all around the world. We don't put one dime in our pockets. Everything that we raise from this podcast will go directly to Thursday night of Chandler Conference. So please subscribe today by using the links in the show notes below. Thanks.
So then I get out. I get out of boot camp. I've passed my rescue swimmer in doc. They do that the 5th week boot camp. And I get down to Pensacola, Florida, and start rescue swimmer training. And we started 26 people in my class that last 4 weeks, and 4 of us graduated, and I was one of the 4.
One of only 4. Wow.
One of 4 in 4 weeks. It's a grueling class, man. It's not for the faint-hearted.
I'm curious. What what was so difficult about it?
Everything.
I mean, is it like on the level of like BUDS training and the Navy SEALs kind of guys?
Our retention rate as a rescue swimmer is worse than BUDS. Of course, a lot more SEALs are out there, but they're
right.
Our retention rate is about it's worse than BUDS training. It is the worst in the Navy.
I heard somebody. Yeah, I heard somebody talking about the BUDS training recently, and I forget who it was, but they told me that basically they will let you drown in their swimming training. They'll keep you underwater long enough, and you will actually drown. They'll have people there to resuscitate you so that you don't die.
They do that in rescue swimmer school too.
Oh my God!
They actually killed a kid in the class before us. So, and it was what they're trying to teach you in rescue swimmer school is they run you to almost death, give you a 15-minute break to get your swimming trunks on, and then try to swim you to death.
Yeah.
And all they're trying to do is train you that when you're in the water, you don't die. Because when you get in the water with somebody who's in the middle of the ocean, you're a big buoy to them.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're going to latch a hold of you. And as soon as they latch a hold of you, they can drown you.
Right.
And so you have to keep them at bay. And so they teach you. I've had a couple of my pastor friends, I try to tell them, in that swimming pool right there, that's my domain.
Yeah.
You might be big, Myron Levitt. You might be bad. But when we get in that swimming pool, I own you. Oh, yeah. Baker, come on. But they teach you that in the water, I can control you. And so
yeah, I mean, I can imagine.
All about.
Yeah, I can imagine, because people are panicked. They're freaking out. They're thinking they're drowning. So you have to physically control people.
Yeah, and so you put them in what they call ICIC, and which is in close and in control them. And so there's lots of different methods you can use. And so I get out of rescue swimmer school. I go to my command, which is HS5 in Jacksonville, Florida.
An important place.
A very important
That's called
place.
Foreshadowing.
That's right. And so I didn't get to choose my school. And the other part of being a rescue swimmer is you launch torpedoes. So there's a brain side of it too, because you know every submarine in the world, and you know how to track them according to with their sonar. And so
I would have never put those two things together.
AW is anti-submarine warfare.
Okay. And
what you do as a helo AW is you are a rescue swimmer.
Okay.
So your primary job is AW, anti-submarine warfare.
Okay.
Your secondary job is rescue swimmer.
So,
but when you get to your squadron, all you do is rescue swimmer work. And every now and again, you drop a sub on, you ping on a sub, and you keep that training up.
Yeah.
But your primary job is fly starboard delta when anytime a carrier is underway and planes are being launched and recovered, there's a rescue swimmer out there. Anytime a Navy H-60, they killed Osama bin Laden.
Right.
The Navy took the SEALs in there to do it.
Yeah.
On those helicopters were two AWs. There was an AW piece on there putting those SEALs out. We worked real close with the SEALs.
Yeah.
So anytime they trained, we were their launch platform. We delivered them. They'd fast rope out of our helos. That's the best job I ever had in my life. Being an AW.
Wow.
It's the most exciting. I've done some of the most exciting flying you can ever do.
I can imagine.
Flown from here all to Fallon, Nevada at 500 feet or less in a helicopter. Flown all over Australia, all over Hawaii. Just had some very, very. I loved the flying aspect of.
Oh yeah, you can't go wrong with that.
No, but the politics and everything else was what. And I was just telling somebody today, that's probably but the real reason was God. So we'll get to that point.
Yeah. But when you went into the Navy, you were already married, though, right?
Yep.
So
we were married.
So now you are having to maintain a relationship. How much time do you spend at home versus out and about?
Well, I was just telling. So when I joined the military and Fawn's brother got me on, the first letter I wrote was to Philip Choate, which is her brother, and I said, when I get out of here, I'm going to kill you. Lied to me. This is not what it was. This is not what you said it was going to be. And anyway, so we get stationed in Jacksonville, and I'm in what they call the number one air wing 1. So I was stationed in HS5, but the fleet replacement squadron that taught you how to fly in your platform or taught you about the helicopter was HS1.
Okay, right.
So for 13 months, all I did was learn how to fly in the helicopter, how to talk on the IC, how to run the equipment, how to, the aspects of helo life. because in rescue swimmer school, all you do is they take you up one time, you jump out of a helicopter one time, and you that's it. Everything else is done in the swimming pool and on the beach.
Okay.
So they just exercise you to death, swim you to death, and make sure that you're mentally capable of. And they teach you how to extract people out of parachutes. You do pool multis where aviators are down. They light the pool on fire, and you go in, and just all kinds of scenarios that happen.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
And so then you go. Then you go to training, and after that training, we went for a few weeks to Brunswick, Maine, and we did CERIS school, Search, Evade, Resist, Elude school. That was a difficult one. Then, so we finally get stationed in Jacksonville, and so we move into an apartment. I'm in HS1. We haven't been here probably maybe 2 months, month and a half, and there's a knock at the door, and I'm not even for sure if we'd unloaded all of our boxes, because I was in and out. Anyway, and Fawn was alone. First time she's ever been without her mom and grandmother, and she's there.
It's hard.
Got Lauren. We're in an apartment. We've never been in an apartment. We owned our own house. We're in uncharted water. She's probably lonely. I'm trying to do my best to figure the Navy life out, and just all of that. And so there's a knock at the door, and there's two ladies that are standing there inviting us to a concert scene and to church. And so I had a beer in my hand, and I turned around and said, "Fawn, the door is for you."
Yeah.
So I went and sat back down in my chair, and Fawn and I never talked about religion. I never told her what my mom and dad's church was. One time, Fawn went to church with me and mom and dad, and it was a charismatic church. And I don't know if you've ever been to a charismatic church before, but these people run around the church, and they have the banner wavers, and they act all crazy, and they're on the Holy Ghost, and so that was the kind of church that we had gone to. So, but it was a charismatic church that taught value and principle. But when you're really looking at it, there are no values and principles.
Oh man!
I mean, if you make some of the people were saved and some other people weren't. Like there'd be two ladies that always dancing in the spirit in the front of the church and acting all crazy, and after church they're lighting up in the parking lot, cigarette smoke. So they're preaching it, but they're not living it. And so when I backslid, I was like, I'm not. This is crazy.
It's a game.
As a high school kid, this isn't the game. So I took Fawn with me one time, and one of the ladies takes off running around the church, and that lady grabbed Fawn for some reason and took off around the church. And when we left, Fawn said, "I'll never go to church again." I was like, "Well, I'm clear of that. Don't have to worry about that anymore."
Yeah.
We were probably 19 at the time when that happened. So fast forward, they invite Fawn to church, and Fawn stands there, and so I'm leaving the next day to go on a deployment, and just a 1 week deployment. And I said, "Well, it probably wouldn't be good for you to go, just stay close here," because we were fish out of the water.
Right.
Really, we were born and raised in Enid, Oklahoma. I've gone to Kansas as a kid, but when I got adopted, we would take vacations and go snow skiing, or, we went to Daytona Beach one year, my family, in those short 3 years that I lived with them. But we didn't. So I get back. As soon as I got back, we moved apartment because they had a apartment on the water. So we moved apartments and never got contacted by the Victory Chapel that knocked on our door. After that, they couldn't find us. We were just kind of around the corner, but for some reason they never, they just didn't contact us for probably 9 months, maybe. Then there was another knock on the door, and they invited us to church.
They got you again.
I don't know.
They must have been persistent.
So, well, they were just knocking on all the apartment doors, and all the all of the duplexes. They were duplexes in the same apartment building.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But what we would do as the duplexes that had that center island thing with table, we were sitting there one night getting drunk. All the guys were getting drunk. The ladies had fed us or something, and so one of the ladies said, "Hey, we ought to go to church tomorrow. All of us should go to church." And of course, some of us drunk guys were like, very vulgarly telling them, we ain't going to church. Church is not for us. We're I remember telling, church people use Jesus as a crutch, and I ain't got crutches. And so weak people go to church. And so I'm coming up with all kinds of good excuses.
Classic.
And so, long story short, the very next morning, they talked us all into going.
Wow.
So five families go to this girls' church, and it happens to be Victory Chapel.
Wow.
So we all walk in with our kids to this church, and I've been to church before,
Yeah.
Fawn and I were the only ones that put our kids in the nursery. Everybody else sat there with their kid. Pastor Meyer's church was probably 40 people at the time.
Wow.
Maybe 50. 30 to 50 people. And when we walked in, we brought 25 people, I think, with us.
That sounds like
but
a good
we didn't
day.
know no different.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't know no different. And Pastor Meyer told us later, we really were running about 25 people. But that one morning when you showed up, the Barclays came, some other families came that weren't part of our crew. We just all showed up to the church on the same day.
Yeah.
So there's 80 people in church.
Wow.
Pastor said my church tripled in one service. But we didn't know that.
Yeah. You thought that was the normal.
Yeah, we just thought all these people are normal. the Pastor Meyer preached a sermon. Altar call came. Fawn raised her hand right up to respond. I didn't. I sat there in my chair, and a man named Roger Slate, he walked up. I got a bug in my throat. He walked up and he said, "Hey, do you know Jesus?" And I said, "Yep." And he said, "You want to get saved?" And I said, "Nope." Now, mind you, I'm all hungover.
Yeah.
I'm all hungover. And so I had a dip of Copenhagen in my mouth. I mean, I dipped Copenhagen from daylight to dark. I just put it in and always swallowed.
Ugh.
I dipped Copenhagen all day.
Yeah.
I just added to it. So I'm sitting there in church, reeking of alcohol, and got a dip in. And this guy comes, sits down next to me at altar call. And I said, "Look, man, I don't mean to offend you, but I've probably forgotten more scripture than you know. I don't mean to offend you, but I'm not interested in getting saved. I came because my wife wanted to come. I'm a rescue swimmer in the military. I don't need Jesus. It's where I'm at."
I've talked to many people like you.
Right. And so he made, and I attribute to the whole, my whole life, I just watch God and the Holy Ghost, how he's orchestrated all these intersections.
Right. Right.
So he says, if you leave here today, you may never have a chance to ask for forgiveness again, and you could possibly go to hell. Wow. But what he didn't realize is I had just gotten to my squadron, HS5. So I've gone through all my training.
Yep.
I'm to my squadron. They make you fill out a top 10 goal sheet in your squadron. My number one goal was get out of the military alive. I don't want to have I don't want to have a crash. I don't want to crash on the back of a ship. I don't want to, because it's a real deal. Helicopter crashes are a real deal, and you die.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so I that was my number one. I just want to get out of this thing alive. I can't believe I signed up to be a rescue swimmer. This is crazy. It's fun and exciting, but I'm also a level-headed kind of guy. Right. I mean, I'm the life of the party, but I also have a few brains, I think. Other people would tell you different, but
depends on who you talk to.
Who jumps out of a perfectly good helicopter? So, anyway, that just struck a chord with me, and I said, "You know what? You're probably right." And I said a sinner's prayer in my seat right there.
Wow. And
so Fawn comes back, and she's just beaming. I mean, she's got up. She asked for forgiveness. She felt forgiven. and we drove home, and I don't think I said 2 words. I know I didn't say 2 words.
Yeah.
All afternoon, she's beaming. I'm mad because I know the decision I just made.
Yeah.
And
What
I'm
it's gonna be.
100%. I'm 100% or no percent.
Right.
That's just my makeup.
Yeah. Right.
If I'm for it and I decide to do it, it's 150%. Ain't no sense in doing it halfway.
Right.
Just me. So I'm upset because I let that stupid guy talk me into making a deal with Jesus. And Jesus is not one you want to make a deal with.
Right.
And not commit to it. And that's what's going on in my head.
Yeah.
So
You're counting the cost.
yeah. I'm not going to get to drink anymore. I'm not going to get to party with the guys no more. Sundays are out the door. Maybe a Wednesday. And this is if I'm going to do this, my parents did it.
Yeah.
And I know what it means to serve God. So that's, well, crud. So for 3 weeks, I stayed mad at God.
Wow.
We went to every
Because
church
he saved
service.
you.
Yeah, right, right. And so we went to Sunday morning, Sunday night. We went back that night to Sunday night. None of the other people in the cul-de-sac went back to church.
Yeah, that's
They
unusual.
they all kept partying in the center of our cul-de-sac. And Fawn and I went back Sunday night to church. I remember telling Fawn on the way home, these people act like they're smiling and they're clapping, but they don't live this kind of lifestyle every day, Fawn. I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
I know how Christian people like this live.
You've seen it.
I've seen this before.
Uh-huh.
I've seen people. My mom, you don't air your dirty laundry out. You hide all. That's charismatic. Everything is perfect. And
Right.
so they, anyway, we go back Wednesday night. And I quit hanging out. I remember driving home and seeing the guys on the park bench, and I jumped out of my car and ran into the house thinking, nah, you're not, you can't go there anymore. And so, they're going, hey, Beck, and I'm just walking to the house like, I don't know you anymore. I can't, because I know one beer and I'm done.
Yeah.
In the back of my head, I wanted to be saved.
Yeah.
But my flesh was screaming.
Yeah.
Just go over there and sit down and relax.
Huh.
So 3 weeks after I got saved, Pastor Meyer preached a sermon, and I can't remember what the sermon was, but he made a statement at the altar call. You don't have no joy, you don't have no victory, you don't have any hope, and the reason is because you will not confess Jesus Christ before man. If you'll just confess Christ before man, he'll give you joy and peace. And if you're not right, lift your hand. Just lift it up. Just put it right up. And I remember putting my hand up. And I'm a rescue swimmer in the military. I'm the best there is. I don't have any weaknesses at all. That's the mentality they put into you.
Right.
You are the best. You're the best enlisted person. The SEALs can't do their job without us. So that's the mentality that they put into you.
Right.
And so I remember lifting my hand up, and I remember walking to the front of the church, and every step I took was exhilarating. It was like I'm really confessing Jesus, that I'm a sinner, and he's going to be Lord.
If you'd like to hear the rest of this sermon, subscribe today. It's only $3 a month when you subscribe at supercast.tech or $4.99 per month when subscribing in Apple Podcasts. Links are in the show notes. We thank you for joining us on this special preview of the VBPH Sermon Podcast. Thank you so much for listening to the Sermon Podcast of the Virginia Beach Potter's House Church. Were you blessed by today's message? Let us know. Please leave us a rating on Apple Podcast or on Podchaser. We'll be back next time with another life-changing word from heaven. God bless.